Hello, this is Julius from Basic Financials, and today I'm going to do a little bit of a chat about annuities. Now, just to say roughly what an annuity is, it's basically you are paying an insurance company or assurance company or an organisation basically. You're paying them a lump sum of money in order to give you a guaranteed amount of income for the rest of your life. Normally, the most basic form of annuity is you pay that lump sum and then you get a fixed amount could be each month, could be each year, maybe quarterly, but you get a fixed amount coming back each year until the end of your life. There are various I think there are different types where you could actually do an annuity that is linked to inflation, so that you pay an amount and then you'll get a fixed amount. But it's not a fixed amount; you'll get an amount, and then which is increased with inflation or CPI, Consumer Price Index. There's other forms where you might say if you were to die, then you might have your maybe your spouse might get, or your family might get an amount of income each month. But obviously, the more variables you put into it, the more expensive it could be. Now, obviously, there are some things to think about with annuities. What used to happen with pension schemes is you would get to your retirement age, and what automatically happened was that you'd buy an annuity, or the pension scheme would buy an annuity, and you'd get a regular amount of income for the rest of your life. Things changed quite a long time ago with that to make it more flexible, so you didn't have to buy an annuity. You can still buy an annuity if you want to, but you can now do various other things with your pension scheme. You can leave it invested. You can start drawing down from the actual pension fund rather than buying an annuity. So things are much more flexible. Now, also another thing that's changed hugely is that annuity rates used to be relatively high, whereas now they're relatively low. So maybe at one time there might have been, say, between 5-10% when you got to retirement. Whereas now you might be looking at 2%, for example, or it may be less than that. It could be a bit more than that. It depends what age you are. There's a whole bunch of things that change the rate. It could be it's basically what age you are. So obviously, if you've got longer to live, then your rate's likely to be lower. If you're not in good health, you might get a better rate than if you're in perfect health. So if you smoke, you probably get a better rate than if you don't smoke. And not a good reason to go and smoke, but that's the sort of strange things about annuities. And you have there are people out there trying to estimate the lives of other things, men or women. Might get different rates for men and women based on life expectancy. So there are people out there who try and work out on average how long people are going to live, and therefore what rates are applicable for you. Now that's good in some ways, bad in other ways. Some people are going to win, some people are going to lose, but what it means is it sort of spreads the risk. So that's why they do it, and why it can be quite a good idea. But first thing, the reason two reasons for doing this video are two very contrasting reasons on annuities. I've just given you a little bit of background of what an annuity is, but I came across recently on a pension fund. It was basically a prediction that if you carry on contributing X amount per year and this assumption, that assumption, then basically they're saying when you're 60, your retirement fund, we estimate it will be worth £700,000. Wow, that's pretty good. And then it goes on to say, you can buy, as an example, a guaranteed income for the rest of your life with this fund of £14,000 a year. And I saw this example as real, and I thought, that's not very good, is it? So when you're 60, £14,000 a year, if you lived for 10 years, that's 140,000 I mean, you're basically never going to get you're never going to get that money back. So you wouldn't want to buy an annuity without that. That's just a pathetic rate. It's almost insulting. Now, you don't. If you did want to buy an annuity, first thing is that you don't have to go with your pension fund. You can look around, and they do actually say it in the letter. You might be better if you look around elsewhere. And there are also other options. You don't have to buy an annuity. You could draw down for your pension fund. Now, if you're going to have a pension fund of £700,000 and you wanted to start drawing down from it when you were 60, you definitely wouldn't want to buy that annuity. Even if the growth on that, you would expect that to be more than £14,000 a year. So you definitely wouldn't want to effectively pay £700,000. You might die the next day. That's very positive, isn't it? Sorry about that. So that's a reason why you definitely want to think twice about accepting and buying annuity in the first place. And secondly, if you do decide you want a guaranteed income, definitely look around and don't get it necessarily from the pension fund you've been saving with. So that's the first thing. And that's real advice that I just said. I actually saw that example. I should say at this point, I'm not an investment advisor, and I'm not qualified to give investment advice. I'm just commenting on things I've seen. I am qualified to comment on advice. I'm definitely not qualified to give it, and I wouldn't want to give it because I'm not experienced enough. But I can sort of see where things look a bit not quite right, or where you might want to think twice. But I do recommend you would go and see a financial advisor if you're thinking about these things, because they can definitely, they're in the know. Okay, you might get good ones, bad ones, but on the whole, you're going to get better advice. There's also tax consequences to think about, so definitely go and see an advisor if you're thinking about this sort of thing. Now, the other example where an annuity might be a good idea, another example I came across recently with somebody. Basically, they're in a position where they're looking after their a single parents, sort of their parents, but one of them's died, so they've just got their mother left, and they were looking at care home fees, basically. Now, when you get to a certain age, if you say you're 90 years old, I said before, annuity rates you might get a better rate if you're old. So it's worth having a think. If you've got a certain amount of money, and you need some income to pay for your care home fees, remember that if you've got over a certain amount of savings, then you'll have to pay for your care home fees anyway. Now, if you were to buy an annuity, first of all, you haven't got that savings anymore, so it might make an effect on what's going to be paid on your behalf. But that's not necessarily the reason I'm thinking about it. It's worth keeping in mind that. But what I'm actually thinking of, if you're in a position where you're single one parent left, and they're definitely an inheritance tax situation. So let's say they've got over £1 million, they would definitely be in an inheritance tax position. Now, if you were to, I'm not sure exactly what the rates are, but let's say, for example, if you could pay £50,000 for an annuity because you're old, maybe you're not in good health, you might get a good annuity rate. So maybe that £50,000 might get you £1,000 a year for the rest of your life, because basically they're not expecting you to live for very long in their rates. So bear in mind that. So say, I don't know this exact rate, but you don't need to research it. But say £50,000, £1,000 a month. Now, if you're definitely in an inheritance tax situation, if you died with that £50,000 sitting in your bank, it would get 40% tax charged on it, inheritance tax for your descendants, whoever you're leaving your money to. So that £50,000 is really effectively not going to cost you that. It's going to cost you £30,000 effectively when you consider that inheritance tax. So rather than paying £50,000 to get that £1,000 a month income, you're actually paying £30,000 to get that £1,000 a month income. Now, it could be that if you need to have a little think about the figures, but it's worth thinking about, because it could be that if you live for more than 2 years, then you may well, or two and a half to 3 years, you may well be better off by having paid that. Now, that is important, that inheritance tax, when you think about that, because £50,000 to buy that amount of income compared to £30,000 to buy that amount of income is quite a significant difference. So it does depend on your individual circumstances. But anyway, there's two contrasting views that might be called something different as well. Insurance companies might call it something different, but basically it's an annuity. You're paying an amount of money to get a regular amount of income for the rest of your life. So there's two different reasons why maybe you would want to consider an annuity in that last example, and why you may not do it in that first example. But a financial advisor is place to go. I hope that helps with just making you think about things. If you've got any questions or comments, go and see your financial advisor. Now, you can leave comments with me below. I'll do my best to answer them. If you'd like and subscribe as usual, and I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again for another one sometime. Thanks for listening.